Right now, if you're cold, you turn a dial. Maybe you complain about it on the walk to your car. That's the extent of your winter survival skill set. Now picture this instead. You're caught in the open. No shelter. No fire started yet. The temperature is somewhere around -40, the kind of cold that starts shutting down your fingers in under 10 minutes. And lying right next to you is the animal your group just killed. Here's the part that should genuinely disturb you. The single fastest way to not die in the next hour might be climbing inside it. This isn't a movie invention, even though you've probably seen it in one. It's a real, documented survival technique, and there's a very specific, very cold reason it works. Start with the basic problem. Hypothermia doesn't creep up slowly the way people imagine. In extreme cold with wind, your body can lose the fight in under an hour. Wind is the thing that speeds this up fastest because it strips heat off your skin far quicker than still air ever could. So the very first thing you need isn't warmth in the abstract sense. It's a windbreak. And a freshly killed large animal is one of the most effective windbreaks a Stone Age hunter could stumble into, sitting right there, already available. Here's where it gets genuinely useful, instead of just gross. A large animal's body doesn't cool down instantly after death. A moose or elk-sized carcass can hold on to usable residual body heat for several hours, according to wildlife biologists who've studied this exact question. That's basic thermodynamics. A body that size has an enormous amount of stored heat, and it takes real time for that to escape into freezing air, especially once you're using the hide itself as insulation wrapped around you. For an ancient hunter caught in the open after a kill, that carcass wasn't just meat for later. For the next several hours, it was the warmest object within miles. This isn't theory. There's a documented case from 1860. A missionary priest named Father Goiffon was caught in a brutal North Dakota storm. His horse died beneath him from the cold. With no other option, he cut it open and climbed inside. It worked. He survived the night. He lost part of his leg to frostbite afterward, because this was never a perfect solution. But he lived to describe exactly what he'd done. Mountain men in the decades after reportedly used the same trick when caught in blizzards with no shelter available. This wasn't a one-time fluke. It was a known, if desperate, technique. Now think about ancient humans specifically. A mammoth or bison hunt didn't happen conveniently next to camp. Hunts ranged for miles across open terrain, and a party could easily be caught far from any prepared shelter when weather turned fast. In that exact situation, the animal they just brought down was the only immediately available windbreak and heat source, while the group figured out a longer-term plan. This was almost certainly repeatable, passed-down knowledge, not a single desperate improvisation. Three things are happening at once here, and the mechanism matters. First, the windbreak, which researchers consider the single biggest factor in surviving extreme cold exposure, more important short-term than raw temperature. Second, residual body heat radiating from the carcass for those first hours. Warmth you didn't have to generate yourself with already depleted energy. Third, the hide and fat layer is itself significant natural insulation, the same principle already at work in the clothes on your ancestors' backs. You weren't just standing next to a heat source, you were wrapping yourself inside one. It wasn't without serious risk. A dead carcass in the open is an enormous predator magnet. Wolves, cave hyenas, anything hunting for an easy meal is drawn to the smell of a fresh kill from a long distance. Which means the group sheltering inside had to weigh freezing to death against something large and hungry showing up to investigate. There was also the wetness problem. Blood and fluids don't stay warm forever, and a soaked hunter climbing back out into freezing wind faced a whole new danger, because wet skin loses heat even faster than dry skin exposed to the same cold. And eventually, the carcass would freeze solid from the outside in, at which point the shelter stopped being a heat source and became an unpleasant block of ice. This bought hours, not days, and everyone using it knew that going in. Size mattered too. A small animal simply couldn't hold enough heat or provide enough coverage to shelter an adult. This only worked with genuinely large game, which happens to be exactly the category of animal Ice Age hunting parties were most often organizing around in the first place. Here's the perspective check, because we've earned it. Somewhere on this planet, more than once, a group of ancient humans looked at a fast-moving blizzard, a dead animal, and freezing children who weren't going to make it back to camp in time, and made a split-second calculation that climbing inside that carcass gave them better odds than standing exposed. And it worked often enough that we're still talking about it thousands of years later. Meanwhile, you've got a phone that can call for help, a heated car 40 feet from your door, and a jacket rated for conditions colder than you'll ever actually stand in. And you still complain about the walk from the parking lot. Ancient hunters field-dressed a mammoth in a moving blizzard and crawled inside it to buy 6 more hours of not dying, fully aware of the risks, and did it anyway. You refuse to walk the dog because it's kinda chilly. Here's what actually stays with me about this one. We imagine our ancestors as less clever than us, mostly because they didn't have our tools. But climbing inside a dead animal during a killing blizzard isn't a lack of intelligence. It's someone, in a genuine life or death moment, correctly identifying the single best resource in their environment and using it without hesitation, because hesitation meant frostbite or worse. We solved this problem permanently with insulated jackets and central heating,